Hello, my name is Chloe. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you my January wrap-up. So, welcome to my bookshelves, aka Packing Box Central. I'm sure you guys know that I am moving within the next couple weeks. I think my moving day, my main moving day, is actually when this video goes out, so the boxes will not be a constant feature, I promise. I have also just been horrifically busy, mainly with packing but continuing my life at the same time. So I'm currently filming this at like 8 AM, which is not what I usually do, and probably why I look a little bit not quite ready for this. So January was an interesting month. If you guys watch my vlogs, you will know that I was in the States at the start of January. I spent 3 weeks there from the middle of December, so I got home on the 7th of January. That did mean that the 6th and 7th were both kind of travelling days where I was a bit too emotional to read, and the 1st to the 5th were my last couple of days with Cole, so I didn't really do much reading. If you've watched any of my previous wrap-ups, one thing I like to do is percentage comparisons between different months. That won't be happening now. We've got a clean slate from January 2024, so comparisons will happen from February. Like last year, it didn't happen, let's move on. I did manage to hit 200 books last year. It was a little bit of a push at the end. What I used to do was 120 books for the year as my goal, and then I would smash 200 without even trying. I think putting the target at 200 put a lot of undue pressure on myself, and it made it not quite so fun to read. So we've gone back down to a target of 120, and we will see what happens. I am slightly ahead of my goal because I did manage to read, despite all the traveling and emotion and whatever, I did manage to read 12 books. Those 12 books came out to 4,893 pages. 10 of the books were physical and 2 of them were on audio. It came out to an average of 158 pages per day, and the average length of the books was 408 pages. My ratings were very split across all numbers. So I had 1 2-star, 1 2.5 star, 2 3 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 2 4 stars, 2 4.5 stars, and 2 5 stars, which meant my average rating was a 3.7 star. Start from the bottom and build up. I won't keep you here for too long. The reading vlogs are all mismatched around. You've had these wrapped up more recently than normal. Let's just go with it. So my 2-star read of the month was The French Girl by Lexi Elliott. I picked this up in Dollar General because it was like $2 or $3, and I thought it looked interesting to give it a go. So like a $3 hardback, yeah, I'm gonna try it. This was a mystery about some teenagers who went to stay in like a family vacation home, and then there was a French girl who was in the next family home, and she would come over and swim with them and hang out with them, and then she is found dead in a well. It was potentially one of the like lowest interest mysteries I've ever read. I didn't really care about what actually happened to her. It was much more character driven, and I didn't really love the characters, so I did read it, but I think I read most of it when Cole was watching a Spider-Man movie I wasn't interested in, so it just kind of happened. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this one. Next up, for 2.5 stars, we have The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion with this book, but something about it really didn't click with me. We have a radio show that is hosted by 2 people who say that they don't like each other. They are enemies at work, and they are pretending to be exes, so they're pretending that they've had a relationship and broken up. The smut in this got it 0.5 of a star. It would have been 2 stars otherwise, because there were so many things. I didn't like the main character like at all, and then something was said about body counts that really got my back up, and it just made me in a crap mood for the rest of the book. I just really didn't like some of the messages in this, and yeah. I've read one of Rachel Lynn Solomon's YA contemporaries, You'll Miss Me When I'm Gone, and I do have Weather Girl and Business or Pleasure on my TBR. I'm going to go into them with an open mind, but I did not like The X Talk. Next up, for 3 stars, we have The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. This was the Chloe's Crime Scene Corner read for the month, and we're going into 2024 with just exceptional book club reads, it seems. So this is a thriller, like a mystery thriller set in an old sanatorium that has been converted to a hotel. hotel. Our main character has gone with her fiance or boyfriend, I can't remember now, to visit her brother and his fiance. The brother's fiance works in the hotel, and that's why I thought it was a good place to go, but she goes missing. And one by one, people from the hotel go missing and are found dead in horrific ways. Our main character is a police detective, but she's been taking an extended break due to personal mental health reasons. But as soon as a dead body is found, she gets stuck in and wants to be involved. Yeah, this was perfectly fine. I think I said in a vlog, this is the epitome of this book was fine. It was fine. There was nothing that knocked my socks off about it. I would have loved them to use more of the fact it was a sanatorium and get a bit creepier into that, but they didn't quite manage that. And yeah, there was nothing I hated about it. It wasn't awful, just fine. Another pretty fine book, the other 3-star, is Guild by Raven Kennedy. This one was wild. This genuinely was wild. So we're following, what's her actual name? We're following Oren, who is the King's royal saddle. And in this society, we can have saddles, which are people who you have sex with. And they put on like a bit of a performance, let's say. So we're following the royal saddles for King Midas. I can't even believe I'm saying these things out loud. And our main character is golden, like she is literally now made of gold, but a fully functioning human underneath. We all know the mythology there with King Midas, who touch things and they turn to gold. So he does that with his favourite royal saddle. It's so, you start this and you're like, what am I reading? Like genuinely, what am I reading? I think the main problem I had with this book overall is that I couldn't see what the storyline was. Like it didn't have a natural like progression to me. I don't know if that makes any sense. So we were kind of learning about Oren and her life and how she exists and what she is used for, let's say, in the first 150 pages. Then it turned into like a road trip travel kind of book. And then some strange groups of people appeared and you're like, huh, what on earth is going on? I feel like Raven Kennedy just had 8 different ideas for a book and went, yeah, I'm gonna put them all in one. Saying that, I did give it 3 stars. I enjoyed my time reading it. It was very easy to read. I do want to know what happens next. I do have Glint and Gleam on my shelf already, so I am gonna continue with the series. I probably need to get my hands on Glow to finish them off. Yeah, I'm gonna continue. Should I continue? Probably not, but I'm gonna. So 3 stars. Next up for 3.5 stars, we have The Fill-In Boyfriend by Casey West. I have already unhauled this one because I knew I wasn't going to pick it up again. We're following a fake dating romance. So, their names are completely gone. I can't check because I don't have the book. Our main character turns up at her high school prom. At this point, she has a college boyfriend, and some of her friends might not believe that he exists because he's never come to hang out with them. She doesn't have pictures with him, and they think she's kind of making it up to sound cool. They turn up at prom together, and the college boyfriend dumps her on her way into prom. So she doesn't want to turn up to prom alone and have her friends think that she was lying about having this boyfriend. Luckily for her, there is a guy sat in his car in the car park, and she gets him to go and get a tie on and pretend to be her college boyfriend. It was definitely a really cute romance. It brought me back to the YA that I used to love so much, and I'm really glad I read it. It was probably between a 3.5 and a 4 star when I read it, but I'm not going to start doing quarter star ratings. Where I did really enjoy it, I thought there were lots of good things. It just didn't really blow me away. I would recommend it. I have had a good time with every Casey West book I've read. I think I have one left, By Your Side, I think is the one I have left, and I am really looking forward to reading it. So I would recommend this. It's just not my favourite thing of all time. And the other 3.5 star book, which again, I would recommend it, I think, but it's not my favourite thing of all time, is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This book I described as haunting Adeline light. We're following James, who is very murderous, really, and he will do anything to get what he wants and to see his agenda pushed through. His #1 priority in life is to destroy his enemy, Peter Michaels. And then Peter Michaels's daughter, Wendy, turns up on the doorstep of his bar, and he takes it upon himself to get her to fall in love with him so that he can basically just destroy her. I think we can all see where that would potentially go. I did like this. It's a very dark book, very dark, but I stormed through it. I had a good time. I Wouldn't necessarily go into this thinking it is a Peter Pan retelling, because it's definitely not. I think the only comparison is that there are names of things in Peter Pan. Like, yeah, the daughter's called Wendy. There is a deckhand called Smee, but that's kind of it. So don't go into it thinking it's a retelling, which it does actually say. Hooked is a dark contemporary romance. It is an adult fractured fairy tale. It is not fantasy or a retelling. So there we go. I'm not going to race to pick up the other books in the series. If I see them, I might grab them, but it's not like an ultimate priority. But yeah, I had a good time. Next up, for 4 stars, we have Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison. This is the book that was just really plaguing me over Christmas. I, for some reason, couldn't get into it. Couldn't get into it on my travel home. I read about 50 pages and I don't really know why, because as soon as I got back and had dedicated time to reading, I really liked this book. So we're following, what's her face, Stella, who has bought a Christmas tree farm that she would like to save. Things aren't really going too well, so she enters a competition, a social media competition, to win a $10,000 prize, I think it is. But the conditions on which she entered the competition is that she bought the Christmas tree farm with her boyfriend. But she doesn't have a boyfriend. She is tragically single. She enlists the help of her best friend Luca to act as her boyfriend for this competition. They have always been best friends. That like relationship box has never been explored, so they start exploring it and you'll never guess what happens next. I really did like this book. It turns out a lot of the issues I had with it were that I wanted to see the other stories continued. I didn't realise at that point this is a companion series, so the story I wanted told is in the second book. So I definitely still think it sits at a 4 star, but I'm very excited to continue on with these books and I would genuinely recommend them. I don't think it has to be read at Christmas. I think a lot of Christmas books are really dedicated Christmas. This is kind of all year round in my brain because she's running a Christmas tree farm, so it doesn't have to be a Christmas time read, if that makes sense. The other 4-star book I have is The How and the Why by Cynthia Hand. I was really scared to read this because I know Rachel loves this book, and often if Rachel loves a book, I don't love it. But I gave it 4 stars. This is about a girl who was adopted as a baby and she is turning 18 and she's starting to have a lot of questions about what her parents, her birth parents, were actually like, and she'd like to find out a little bit more. At the same time, we are following letters that her birth mother wrote to her unborn baby while she was institutionalized in like a house for young mothers. So she went to school there, everyone around her is pregnant, and then they either give birth and keep the baby or give birth and give it up for adoption. We're also just finding out a lot about our main character, what's her name, Cass. Her normal life at high school, she's really into drama and acting, so she's going out for all the plays. Her best friend is also really into acting, might be a better actress than her, but she was also adopted, so they have that kind of bond over that. Many points of this book were extremely emotional and I'm very glad that I read it. I did have a few niggly problems in the narrative throughout the book, but it wasn't anything that would make it go lower than a 4 star. I just couldn't give it 5 star for the feels when some things really did bother me. It says, knowing the past won't decide the future, but it can help you find the way. And I really do like that. Just very emotional overall, and I would definitely recommend this one. Next up, I have my 4.5 star reads, and this one, I always pronounce it wrong, even when I sit and rehearse the word. We have Cavette by Tracy Wolfe. This is the 3rd book in the Crave series, and I had previously rated this a 4 star, but I upped it to a 4.5. I listened to the audio this time, and genuinely, it just made me so happy. There are definitely faults in this book, don't get me wrong. I stand by it being the worst book in the Crave series so far, because the characters just bounce around everywhere. Who knows what they're doing? Who knows why everything is just falling into place? And I realise I just tried to explain it and then spoiled a massive part of the plot, but the characters are really just bouncing around different locations, getting impossible things done very quickly, and that kind of like detracts from my rating a little bit. I love the development of the romance in this one. I can't tell you too much about it because my favourite romantic partner isn't even in the 1st book, so I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, this is a 680 page chunker. I have been listening to the Crave series up to the point that I've read it so that I can continue on with the physical books. So I've now re-listened to all of the books so far. Saying that, I've already forgotten where this one ends because there's just so much story in this. I'll probably have to glance at the last couple of chapters before I carry on. But yeah, this series is just a good time and I would thoroughly recommend it if you want a supernatural fix but not too much brain work. And then another book which I'd previously rated 4 stars and upped to a 4.5 star rating is Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. This is obviously the first book in the Throne of Glass series and the first book in the Trash for Mass read along. I had previously rated this 4 stars and I upped it this time because I was reading it about the same time as I was reading this, and I upped this rating just because of how fun it was and decided it was only fair to do the same. We're following this is where I'm going to get schooled later. It's the live show tonight when I'm filming this on this book and our feelings. So I'm going to get schooled in my pronunciation, I'm sure. But we're following Selenia Sardothian, who is an enslaved salt miner in the Endovia salt mines because she is an assassin and she was caught. The Crown Prince then comes to rescue her and tells her that he's entered her in a competition to become the King's champion or the King's assassin. She would rather do anything than be in the salt mines, so she decides to go and try out this competition to work for the king that she despises so much. One thing I really love about this book is it really concentrates on Selenia's relationships with our other main characters. So we have the Captain of the Guard and the Crown Prince, and yeah, Sarah J Maas really just focuses on her forming relationships with them and how her past of being an assassin and then being in the salt mines is impacting that, alongside this action of being in a competition to become the King's assassin. I really do like this. We will see what Ali thinks of it in the live show later, and I will link that live show down below. And finally, on to the 5-star reads, both of which I don't think you'll be expecting. The first one is the last audiobook for the month, and that is Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. I have been in a bit of a hit lately of rereading the Hunger Games books because I watched The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes with Cole in December, and yeah, I wanted to re-experience the series to then finally read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes after. So going back into Catching Fire was so much fun. I think I've only read it one time previously, and I think it was like 2020, it wasn't that long ago, but I really enjoy this book. We're following, I want to say, yeah, it's the 75th Hunger Games. What happens in this Hunger Games is that obviously it is book 2 of the series, so I'm trying not to spoil too much, but in the 75th Hunger Games they decide that they're only going to send past victors into the games. So that gives us a lot of interesting character dynamics. Who do we trust? Who do we not? They're all ruthless killers because they've all won the Hunger Games before, but which of these ruthless killers are on our side? I really like this book. I don't think I liked it quite as much the first time, but I think it's such an interesting concept, and the ending I think was lost on me a little bit the first time, but I appreciated it more this time. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm trying to sound not negative, but all of my reviews come across as negative. So yeah, I did really enjoy this, and I'm really looking forward to picking up Mockingjay at some point. I don't have a direct need to do it right now, but it's definitely on the agenda, and yeah, I would fully recommend the Hunger Games series. I think they're standing up to the test of time. And finally, I don't know if anyone will even remember this was on my TBR, but my favourite book of this month was Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is book 2 in the Dreamland Billionaires series, and we're following Declan and Iris. If you haven't read the fine print, this might not make too much sense, but Declan has to get married and have a child in order to fulfill the terms of his grandfather's will for him to become CEO of Dreamland. So he has a fake wife like lined up. She's got a contract ready of how much he'll pay her to just sit there, be pretty, and let him become CEO. But she drops out 2 weeks before the wedding, and Iris is Declan's secretary or PA. So she sacrifices herself, what a shame, to become Declan's wife in order for him to satisfy these conditions. They have worked together for literally years, and they've worked very closely, so we can all see what's going to happen there. But I just absolutely devoured this book. It's chunky, it's definitely not small, almost 500 pages of contemporary romance, but I really just enjoyed it. I didn't want it to end. I pretty much loved every second, so definitely a weird one to be my favourite of the month, but The Fine Print made it to my favourites of 2023 list, so it looks like Terms and Conditions is going to do the same. So there we have it. Those are all of my reads from January of 2024. By the time this video goes live, I know that we're close to wrapping up February anyway, so let's see what happened there and if it was a more successful reading month. I would say 12 books in basically 23, 24 days is pretty damn decent, and yeah, I had a good time with most of these, and 3.7 is not a bad average star rating to start the year on. Let me know if you've read any of these books and have any differing opinions, if you agree with me. It's always great to talk to you about your opinions down in the comments. But for now, that's all I have time for, so thank you very, very much for watching this video. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!